Okay, so let us begin the lecture by recalling that we had started looking at what is called a orientable surface. So a orientable surface is a surface on which we can define a continuous unit normal throughout the domain of the surface. So at every point on the surface there is a unit normal which varies continuously. So essentially it says there are two sides of the surface, one is inside, one is the outside. Geometrically it says that. So we looked at some examples: sphere, ellipsoid, annulus region between two spheres. These are all surfaces which are orientable, and Mobius band is one surface in R3 which is not orientable, because the unit normal cannot be. There is a whatever way you define the unit normal, it won't be a continuous one. Right? Okay. So once we have a continuous unit normal on the surface, we were looking at what is called F dot n, the flux across a surface. That was a need that motivated us to define what should be called as a orientable surface. So we can define now for a continuous vector field F, we define F dot ds. Here S is boldface. Okay. F dot ds to be the integral, the surface integral F dot n, that is a scalar field, that is a continuous scalar field F dot n, surface integral of that over the surface S. So this surface integral is normally also written as F dot ds, where S is bold, right? It indicates a vector. Okay? It is something similar to line integral F dot dr, right? If R is a curve, then the line integral over C is also written as F dot dr. Okay, so there is something same here. So this is F dot ds, S boldface. This is called the flux integral of F over the surface S. It means it is the surface integral of the vector field F dot n, where n is a unit normal vector chosen according to your orientation. There are two continuous unit normals possible, right? If n is a continuous unit normal possible on an orientable surface, then minus n also is a continuous unit normal possible. Right? So one will be n, other will be the negative of that function. Okay? So depending on what is your choice, that is called the flux integral. Okay? Across that, in that direction n. Okay? So physically it represents, as I said, the flux of the fluid with F is the density of the fluid density across the surface. Let us just look at some examples to compute that. So F is a vector field given by xzi plus yzj plus x square k. And we are given the surface to be the sphere x square plus y square plus z square equal to a square. There are many ways of now finding the flux of this vector field across this sphere, right? You can represent the surface sphere as upper part of the sphere and lower part of the sphere. Then both the surfaces will be explicitly representable, upper part and the lower part. If you want to represent as a whole, then it is only implicitly expressible. So choice is yours. So let us do it both ways. Let us first orient it with outward unit normal. That is the choice we have made, that the normal which is going outside the sphere, right? Start from origin, go to the sphere, and the pointing outside, that is the normal we are choosing on the sphere. So F dot n we want to compute. So first possibility is, let us write S as S1 union S2, where S1 is the upper part of the sphere and S2 is the lower part of the sphere. We'll compute both of them and add them. Okay, so compute both and add. So let us compute. So the upper part of the sphere, right, a parameterization is given by x, y. You can compute z in terms of x and y from the equation x square plus y square plus z square equal to a square. It is upper part, so it choose the plus sign here. So this is a parameterization of the upper part of the sphere, xy belonging to the right circle in the xy plane. Okay. So that is x square plus y square less than or actually it should be equal to a square, because you are only on the surface. It shouldn't be less than or equal to, right? So if you want the boundary only, but if you want the whole sphere, at every point in the disk you have to look at it, right? That is a projection of the surface. This is a projection of the surface on the xy plane. That is a disk, right? Inside included. So let us compute. This is R. So to compute the surface integral, what do we need? F dot n, that is same as we want F dot Rx cross Ry dxy over the projection onto the xy plane, right? So let us compute Rx From here, compute Ry from there. So that is a partial derivative of, right, the corresponding things. Okay, Rx, Ry. So let us just write down those computation. And this comes out with positive k, right? When we differentiate, this comes out Rx cross Ry. When we write it as Ijk, it's coming with k plus 1. That means this is outward normal for the upper one, right? So this choice is okay. Because it is given, we should be looking at only the outward normal. For the upper part, outward normal, the k component always will be positive for the unit normal, right? So this is the outward unit normal. So now we can write f dot n, right? F we know, n we know. So write f dot n. So compute and simplify it, comes out 2x square plus y square. So let us similarly compute on S2, the lower part of the sphere, right? F dot n. So once you compute that, you will see it comes out negative of that. A similar calculation, right? When you do that, so once you add, you will get this answer is equal to, this is negative of that, so that is answer is equal to 0, right? Computing the upper one, computing the lower one, and adding the 2 f dot n ds1, right? Plus integral over S2 and adding the 2, okay? This is writing the sphere as union of two surfaces, one upper part, one lower part, both explicitly representable. Let us use the implicit form and try to compute whether we get the same answer or not. Okay, so let us do it another way. Okay, so let us write the sphere as fxyz is equal to x square plus y square plus z square minus a square equal to 0 implicitly. So what will be the normal? Gradient vector will give me the normal vector for that surface, right? So let us compute that. So gradient for that 2xi, 2yj, 2zk, okay? So the unit normal will be plus minus of that. I don't know which one I should choose, but I am going to look at only outward normal, always. So what will be the outward normal? Which sign I should choose? Plus sign. Is it okay? Right. So let us keep it plus minus for the time being here, okay? So with the positive sign will be the outward normal. So let us compute f dot n now. F we know, n we know, right? So that comes out az, right? F dot n, okay? And f dot n s1 over s2, that is equal to 0. So this is direct computation, okay? Over s1 over s2. Is it okay? F dot n. Yes? So sometimes direct computation is easier if your equation is implicitly nicely written down. Otherwise, sometimes you have to write it as explicit equation, right? And that computation may be easier. So anyway, go back and look at them again. Let us do one more example so that this idea. We want to evaluate f dot n, okay, where what is the surface? Gosh. The surface is the boundary of the region, okay, x square plus y square plus z square inside 1 and 4. That is the annulus region. The annulus portion I am looking at, okay. So for the annulus portion, what will be the normal we will be looking at, okay. So f is given to be this, where so this is a vector field. To compute this, I have to look at the normal first of all. What normal we are going to choose for that. So for the inner and the outer one, right, if I am going to specify always the normal which is pointing away from the region enclosed by these surfaces, okay, then for the outer one it should be the outer one, and for the inner sphere it will be pointing towards the origin, right. This surface has got two disjoint parts. The surface has got two, one is outer sphere and one is the inner sphere, right. There are two parts of the surface. Is it okay? The surface consists of two disjoint parts. So let me show you once again. What is that? Consider the surface as to be the boundary of this region. We are looking at the annulus portion, right? X square plus y square plus z square bigger than or equal to 1, less than or equal to 4, the boundary of that. So the boundary consists of two spheres, one bigger one, one smaller one, right? And if you want to look at, you have to decide which normals you want to take, right? So let us take the normal to be the one which is going to be pointing outside the region enclosed by these two surfaces, right? The normal which is not pointing inside the region, okay? So that is a continuous. See, on the outer one, both outer and inner is a continuous unit normal choice possible. For the inner one also, both are possible. So you have to make a choice which one you want to compute. Okay. But if you are looking at flow across the surface, then you should be always going away from the region enclosed by the surface. Okay. So that is the idea. So F is given by this. So let us compute. Okay. So this is a portion. Okay. So in this, if you like, we can compute the normals for the two. Normal is always for a sphere, the normal is always along the position vector, the radius. Okay. So n is equal to this. Okay. For the portion S2, which is the outside one going out. Okay. So F dot n you can compute on that. That is F dot n. Okay. Compute, and that comes out minus 1 over r square. So let us compute over S2. Okay. S2 is a sphere. Okay. So minus 4 pi we get. And similarly for the other one, we'll be taking the negative sign. Okay. That is a smaller one. So taking the inside, going towards the inside. So negative sign we have taken here. Okay. Rest of the calculation is same. Once you have decided, and that will come out to be 4 pi. So when you add the two, right, the surface integral of that, or the flux of this F across this surface which is annulus is equal to 0. Okay. So the basic idea is you have to make a choice of, if the question says you have to find the flux of this across the surface, then you are forced to take the unit normals which are pointing away from the region enclosed by the closed surface. Okay. Otherwise, normal will be specified. F dot n, along this normal you should compute. That will be specified. Right. So from the question, make it very clear what is the thing to be computed. So once again, let me point it out that the flux normal depends on the choice of the normal, the orientation that you are giving to the surface. Like for a curve, closed curve, right, whether you take clockwise or anti-clockwise, a negative sign difference will always come. Similarly, the choice for a orientable surface, right, a difference of negative sign will come if you take the other one, other normal, choice of the other normal. Okay. So if you take always, when you want to normalize it, you will be choosing the square root sign, positive or negative. So let us make a convention that whenever you are choosing positive sign for the square root, that will be called the positive unit normal. Right? Just name we are giving. You have got the normal vector. When you normalize it, you have to choose whether you want to take square root of that. Right? Norm should be plus or minus sign, whichever you choose. So if you choose the plus sign there, whatever the normal vector comes, that is called the positive unit normal. With the negative sign, we will call it as the negative unit normal for the surface. So two are possible. So we have named them both now. So accordingly, F dot n ds, right, with the choice, if you write that parameterization RUV, then this surface integral, okay, F dot n ds, the flux integral, will be plus minus F dot RU cross RV, depending on the choice of your normal plus or positive or the negative one. Clear to everybody? This is the flux normal, flux integral F dot n ds, where S has got the parameterization UV going to RUV, right? Because, is it okay, this formula for everybody? Yes? Because ds is nothing but ds divided by the norm, right? The norms will cancel out, it is du dv only. Okay. So this is the one which is useful in computations. So let us do one more example on this idea so that, so F is given by the position xi, yj, zk. Outward across the portion of the cone that lies above the xy plane. Look at the portion of the cone, okay, that lies above the xy plane, okay. We want to compute, okay, 1 minus x square minus y square. So let us write for the cone, the surface, implicitly written as z is equal, gxyz is equal to x, gxyz is equal to z plus x square plus y square minus 1 equal to 0, implicitly written as. So what I have to find out for the normal? Gradient of this g, right? That will give me the normal. So let us find that. Plus minus is equal to this. And now you have to decide which is the outward one. You have to decide now which is the outward, which sign I should choose to make it outward. So now you have to roughly see what is the picture of this. Okay. So what will be the picture of that? It doesn't look like a cone. It's not a very perfect picture, but imagine it's like a cone. All right. Tip is at the top. So this will be the unit normal. So what will be the property of the unit normal? Everywhere the k component will be positive. So accordingly you will make your choice for the outward unit normal. And for the lower one, it will be pointing downwards if you are including the lower part also, okay, of the surface. So take the positive sign in that choice, gradient of G. Once the choice is made, you can calculate now, okay. So N is equal to RU cross RV, that is same as gradient of G, right? So put the values and compute, okay. So that is a simple computation of two variables. You can change to polar coordinates because x square y square is coming, right? So that tricks you know, okay. There is another form of this flux integral f dot n ds which plays a role later on. So let us write that also. See, n is the unit normal that you have chosen for the surface, right? So let us write n is equal to cos alpha I plus cos beta j plus cos gamma k. What are alpha, beta and gamma? These are the direction cosines for that vector, okay? So if these are the direction cosines, n is equal to this. So what is f dot n? Right? Let us write. So we are writing the vector form of it. F is equal to pi plus qj plus rk. So f dot n will be equal to, okay, compute, that is a scalar field now. F dot n will be a scalar field. So it is p cos alpha plus q cos beta plus r cos gamma ds, right? You can write it as three different integrals. P cos alpha ds plus q cos beta ds plus r cos gamma ds, right? That is when f is written in the form of components and you know direction cosines. But one has to be slightly careful here. See, in this, what is alpha? That is a direction cosine. But when you want to evaluate this, we have already got a formula for f cos alpha, right? We can evaluate a scalar field f cos alpha, f cos beta, f cos gamma, depending on what plane you are projecting. F cos gamma, we got a function, right? Where was the angle there? F cos gamma. That was the acute angle, right? When we were looking at surface integrals, right? We had integral of a surface integral of a function f is equal to secant gamma dx, right? So if you change that function f to f cos, so you get integral of f cos gamma. Last time we did that, is equal to integral of the function fx gxy, right, instead of that into dx dy over the projection onto the xy plane, right? So that is the same kind of thing coming here. But this angle may not be the acute angle. See, that is the only problem because this is the direction cosine for n, right? So in that formula, the angle is acute angle. So while computing, there is no harm in using this formula. Only thing you have to make sure is if this angle, right, depending on whether this angle is acute or obtuse, you have to introduce a negative sign. If it is obtuse, you will put a negative sign before the integral when you write this integral in terms of the double integral. While computing it as a double integral, right, the angle should be the acute angle. If it is not acute, you have to put a negative sign, make it acute, right, to compute that angle. Are you following this or not? Yes? Okay, let me probably write what I mean. See, when we computed S, F, okay, cos gamma ds, we wrote this is equal to projection onto the, let me write r x y, projection of S onto the xy plane, f of x, so then it is given by z is equal to something, so let us write gxy, right, explicitly projection is known, surface is given by this, the xy, g of xy, dx, dy, this is the formula we got last time, right? But here this angle gamma is the acute angle between the normal and the z-axis, right? While in the formula that we are writing here, this angle cos gamma, this gamma may not be the acute angle because the actual direction cosine it is. So if it is obtuse, then while computing in terms of the double integral, we will have to put a negative sign in front of it. So that calculation you have to make, that correction you have to make sure when computing, okay? So let me just write that once again. So if z is equal to gxy, then this integral, which is r cos gamma ds, will be equal to r, that function evaluated at xy, gxy, dxy, d is the projection onto the xy plane, If cos gamma is bigger than 0, then it is acute angle anyway, then we don't have to do anything. But if it is obtuse, then we have to put a negative sign, that this integral will be equal to negative of that integral, right? Only for computation purposes. It's clear? Because in that formula we had angles to be all acute angles, right? If it is not acute, you have to make it correction and make it a negative sign. So that is you should be careful. Okay. Let us write everything in terms of component functions and see what our flux integral looks like. So F is Pi plus Qj plus Rk. The surface is given in terms of parameter, right? Parameterization is Ruv equal to XUV, I plus YUVJ plus ZUVK. So what I want to compute? To compute F dot n ds, I have to look at Ru cross Rv, right? F dot Ru cross Rv dxy. That is going to be my integral. So from here let us compute what is Ru. If this is a formula for, this is a parameterization, what is Ru? Xu I YU J plus ZUK. Similarly, so compute Ru cross Rv from here. So that is a determinant, and that gives you this formula for Ru cross Rv. Abstract, right? Fine. So these are the expressions which are going to appear in the surface integral F dot n. So let me write that so that we become a bit slow. F dot n, okay, so that will be P, right? P times this duv, okay, Q, the next one component, and R times that. What is F? Pi plus Qj plus Rk, right? Ru cross Rv, just now we computed it was this time I, this time J, this time K, so dot product, so that gives you this integral, right? Now every time mathematicians have this habit of whenever something complicated comes, they devise a notation for that, so that you don't have to write that complicated thing again and again. So this complicated thing is written in a nice way. So let me write down so you write P is a function P xy dy wedge dz, okay. So this is a surface integral which was on the right hand side, this complicated thing coming, right? So this will stand for this expression, okay. It's just a notation. This integral is denoted by this. That's all, nothing more than that, okay. So then what is your F dot n? What does it look like? It will be P dy dz plus Q. Now cyclically you have to go. Right, so let us write that. So Q will be equal, it's too fast. So for the Q, dz dx will be the corresponding thing here, and similarly the next one cyclically dx dy. So always keep in mind the third one, that is R dx dy, right? So that is what dx du, those corresponding things are coming. Order is important in that, otherwise you may make a mistake and make it a negative sign probably, right? Yes? Which is the same? Dx dy, right? So differentiate x with respect to u, differentiate y with respect to v minus the other one, okay? Oh yeah, okay, this should be, okay, there is a mistake here. So this should be dx dv dy du. Fine, accept it. Okay, good. Right, so let us write now our, in this notation, if f is given by this, then f dot n is given by this kind of expression, right? So the the surface integral f dot n will be P dy dz. P is the first component, so y and z, that order is important. P is the first x component, y z, this is the y component, zx, cyclically it is coming, okay? That order I have to maintain. And this formula is something similar to we had for line integrals. We are going parallel to the line integrals. We had that P dx plus Q dy plus, only it was R dz in 3 dimensions, right? It's perfectly same formula now coming for higher dimensions, 3 dimensions. Same formula, okay? Right. So, which is useful where, that depends on the problem. So let us look at one problem to see how to do it in 2 different ways probably. So f is given this vector field, and my surface is given to be the parabolic cylinder y equal to x square. X goes between 0 to 2 and z goes between 0 and 3. Clear? Surface is quite clear, no problem. X goes between 0 to 2, Z goes 0 to 3. Okay, that portion only we are looking at of the parabolic cylinder. So for that, what is the parametric form? Y equal to x square. So I'll choose x as the parameter. X square, and Z. What is Z? That is free because it is a cylinder, right? So Z is free. So xi, x square j plus zk, where x and z, the parameters are varying, x varying between 0 to 2 and z varying between 0 and 3, right? So we have got everything. So write Rx cross Ry, okay, and write down the normal, that is the unit normal. So write f dot n. So what will be f dot n? What is f dot n? Right? So that is f, this is n, you don't have to normalize it, right? Ru cross Rv only. So that's why the square root 5 is missing here. So be careful. When you want to write f dot n as integral, compute as double integral, on the right hand side is only f dot Ru cross Rv. You don't normalize. Normalization cancels with ds, right? So careful. So this is now dx dz. It is not no more surface integral. It is a double integral now. Okay? F dot n ds was equal to f, right, dot Ru cross Rv dx dy. We saw that earlier. So compute that. So once you compute, the answer comes out 72, no problem. So this is a straightforward method of doing it. There is another method of doing the same problem. Let us try to compute this using this formula, right? Try to use this expression to see what the answer comes out to be. Okay? So for that I have to write the normal. Normal we have already computed, right? This was a unit normal on the surface we just now computed. So write it as direction cosines. So cos alpha I plus cos beta j plus cos gamma k, right? So what you see, cos alpha is greater than 0, cos beta is negative, and cos z anyway is pi by 2, angle gamma is pi by 2, so that doesn't matter at all. So that means for the second integral, when you want to compute, you have to put a negative sign in front of it to compute it, right? For this one, a negative sign will come. So that gives me f dot n is minus of that. Now you can write down, you know the parameterization and to compute the integrals. Okay? So it is dx dy, that's why a negative sign has come. It has become double integral with a negative sign in front. Okay? So that you can compute. What is d prime? dy dz. So another thing, I think that also you should point it out, is dy dz. So d prime is the projection of the surface onto the yz plane. And here is zx, so that is the projection onto the xz plane. So you have to be careful which variables you are integrating. Accordingly, you have to take the projection on the appropriate planes. Okay? So this d prime is the projection onto the yz plane, and d is the projection onto the zx plane to get the double integrals. And then compute. Okay? So that all computation is given that. So writing that equation in that form will be, right? When you want yz, so the surface has to be written in terms of yz. It was earlier written as xz. Now you have to write it in the term of yz because you want projection onto the yz plane. So do it accordingly and compute. So this first one comes out to be 108 if everything is okay, and if I am not bluffing anywhere, then it is 36. And the answer, when you subtract it, it comes out same as before. So check everything is okay. You sit down and verify the computations. So that is the way you will be using either the direct form, okay, or looking at the cos alpha, cos beta, cos gamma form. I have tried to give you all examples so that you get familiar with all kinds of computations. Okay. So that is surface integrals. Okay. So now let us come to, once everything is going parallel with the case of curves and line integrals. We looked at curves, we had surfaces. For curves we had the arc length, for surface we had the surface area. For curves we had the line integral, for surfaces we had the surface integral. Right? Now there was a relation, there was a theorem in line integrals that line integral is related to the double integral, that was Green's theorem. Right? A corresponding theorem, I said we'll be proving a corresponding theorem in higher dimensions. Now that is the time to prove that. That was the divergence form of the Green's theorem. Same theorem, instead of writing dx dy, write dx dy, dz becomes true in R3. So you take a surface which is a closed surface, okay, then on that surface you can compute the surface integral, and the surface includes a region, you can compute the double integral of something inside it, that is the divergence. It says divergence, the triple integral of the divergence in that region is same as the flux integral of F across that surface. That is a boundary. So there also line integral, Green's theorem was the boundary, region and a boundary was there. Here also a region in R3 and a boundary is there. On the boundary will be the flux integral, and on the inside it will be the divergence of that thing. Okay, so let us write the theorem and then we will prove it. So it says, so this is what we had for the Green's theorem. Okay, divergence of F was equal to F dot n ds. Same thing we are saying is valid for R3. So instead of 2 it will become 3 now. Okay, instead of line integral it will become surface integral now. Okay, so that is the idea. So let us state that the divergence theorem. So G is a closed bounded region because we want the integrals to exist in R3, whose boundary is a orientable surface. The boundary of that should be a orientable surface. F is a vector field which is continuously differentiable. Put all nice conditions so that once you differentiate, because divergence you are going to calculate, so the partial derivative should exist and should be continuous for the double integral to make sense, right? It says that the double integral, the surface integral F dot n, right, of this vector field F is equal to the triple integral of the over the region G enclosed by S, divergence F dx dy. Same thing, Green's theorem in R3. Okay, this is called divergence theorem. Okay, sometimes also called Gauss divergence theorem, because I think Gauss, you must have heard about the physicist. He was a physicist, mathematician, whatever you want to call it, universal, right? He appears both in physics as well as in mathematics. Very great mathematician, great physicist. Okay, so this is clear. What is the theorem? It is same as Green's theorem, picked up and being proved in R3. Okay, so let us try to write down what we were, and the proof is also similar to the Green's theorem. There is no change at all. Same thing we'll do. What did we do for Green's theorem? We wrote that this integral was p dx plus q dy, right? To compute p dx, we gave a orientation to the curve and computed, right? And then wrote that line integral as, right, as a double integral. We converted that in double. Same thing we'll be doing here. Same proof. No change. Only one more variable will be entering into the picture. So let us write down the. But again, orientable surface, and there was orientable curve, clockwise and anti-clockwise. So here also we have to fix the orientation for the surface, which normal you are going to take. So we will always be taking this theorem is valid, the left hand side is equal to right hand side only when the normal is the outward normal. What is outward normal? The normal pointing away from the region enclosed by that closed boundary, right? Normal should not be inside it should not be pointing inside the region G. So that is the only. And as you recall, we proved Green's theorem only for nice simple regions. We will be doing also same thing for this divergence theorem also. We will be proving it only for nice regions. What are nice regions? That vertical lines, right? You go parallel to any axis, that it meets the region only in one segment. It doesn't cross over and go to some other segment, right? Any vertical line will go through the region, it enters once and leaves, and then region is not somewhere else again, that again it will enter. So every vertical line will intersect the domain G only once, right? On only one line segment you can say. Similarly, lines parallel to y-axis and line parallel to z-axis. So very nice assumption we are making. Okay. For such a region, I want to show this is equal to this, right? That is what we want to show. For such a region, this is equal to this. So let us see what is going to be a region G of this type, which is nice, which is simple. Like if a region is simple in plane or type 1, it looked like on the side there is a boundary, vertical lines, top there is a curve, bottom there is a curve. Similarly in R3, if the region is simple, right, and if you are moving parallel to perpendicular to xy plane, what should it look like? You enter once and then you leave. That means there will be some bottom surface, there will be a top surface, and on the sides there can't be anything else. So it will be like some kind of a cylindrical kind of a surface, right, where top and bottom is some surfaces which are varying. Okay, so that is what we have to only realize, and accordingly. So let us write the direction cosines for the normal: cos alpha, cos beta, cos gamma. So what we want to prove, we will split up like like in two variable Green's theorem, P dx we showed it is equal to something, Q dy we showed it is equal to something, and then we added the two equations. Same thing we do here. We write the direction cosine, so P cos alpha ds is equal to the right hand side divergence. Also I got three terms. We will show that the first one, integral of P cos alpha surface integral is equal to the triple integral of partial derivative of P with respect to x. That one. Second one is equal to integral equal to this. Third one equal to that. Same proof. There is no change at all, because after all we are just lifting it up. We are just lifting Green's theorem up. Nothing doing. So same idea works. So let us try to show the first one. P cos alpha is equal to this. The first one. Okay. So now if you want to compute this, what you have to do? You have to realize what is alpha. Right? Alpha is the angle. Okay. That you make with that appropriate. Right? It is x. So y z. Okay. So let us write down. Integrally cos beta. So these are the three equations that we have to prove. So let us prove one of them. And so let us write our domain G. Right? Is nice domain. So xy belong to D in the plane bottom. And z varies from one surface to another. So z goes from gxy to hxy. Right? As I said, because of the assumption it is a simple domain. So that is what it looks like. So projection onto the xy plane is the domain D. It starts. So let me show you the picture. Let me show you this is the picture. Right? This is my surface, closed surface. Okay. At the bottom, this is a projection onto the xy plane. At any point, when you go vertically, it enters at this point, right? Goes up to here and then goes out of the region, right? Any vertical line. So it will start entering at a surface here. It will go out at a surface. Bottom is, we have called it as S2, and the top is S1. On the sides will be like those vertical lines in the Green's theorem, right? So it will be some cylindrical thing. Is it okay? So this domain will have three surfaces as boundary. The region G, right, the boundary of that, the surface S, splits into three parts. One is the side one, right, one is the bottom, one is the top. Now to compute, we have to compute the angle, right, how much is the angle. So on the side one, what will be the angle between the z axis and the, that is, so that integral will vanish. Keep in mind that for a Green's theorem also, on the sides, the two integrals vanish, right, on that portions, on the curves C1 and C3, the vertical lines. So in this, it will vanish, and here the angle will be obtuse, so a negative sign will come, right, the angle here, the outward normal will make with the z-axis, that is obtuse angle. So when you want to compute, right, the cos alpha, so negative sign has to be put in front of the double integral when you want to compute. Here is acute, so no problem comes. Right? So I am going to compute that integral. So let us compute that integral. R cos alpha. Right? So what is, how will you compute R cos gamma? Angle, gamma is the angle between there is a direction cosine angle coming, right? That you have to see according to S1, S2 or S3, it is acute or obtuse. To write it as a double integral, right? So write this as a double integral over S1 plus integral over S2 plus integral over S3 first of all, because S consists of three parts, okay? On S1 we compute angle is pi by 2, so that integral vanishes, is 0. On this one it is nice, angle is acute, okay? So I can compute it without negative sign. On the third one, angle is obtuse, so I have to put a negative sign. So let us write that those three parts. Okay. So three surfaces. The first one, okay, S1 is equal to 0, acute and obtuse. So I have just written that thing only. So that means this equal to. So this part, second integral becomes 0. Okay. So the first one becomes integral over D. That top surface. This is the integral over the top one. This is the integral over the bottom one, but both have got the same projection anyway. Projection for both is same on the xy plane, top and the bottom one. Okay, so that is D. So it's double integral of R xy. It starts at hxy and going up to, only z is varying for the top and the bottom. Projection is same. So as a double integral, only negative sign comes for the second one because angle is obtuse. So this is same. The two terms come, one with a negative sign. In Green's theorem also same thing happened. Two integrals vanished, and one was positive, other one was negative, right? And that we wrote it as again a line as a integral of one variable. The same thing we'll do it here. So r of xy hxy minus r of xy gxy, that is again an integral of the partial derivative of r, okay, with respect to z. So this is integral of the partial derivative of r with respect to z. So write that. And what is this now? This is the triple integral of partial derivative of r with respect to z over the domain enclosed by that surface. In Green's theorem it came out that was a double integral, okay, the domain region enclosed by the closed curve. Same proof. One term positive, one negative, right? That has, here it comes out double integral because when you want to compute surface integral, you have to take projection onto the plane, right? There the curve is varying in t, so t goes from a to b. Same proof, no change at all. Appropriately one more term is added, nicely. So that proves the one part and similarly the other parts, okay? So the basic thing in the proof to be realized is, when you assume it is a surface, special surface, it looks like a cylinder kind of thing, right? Where top is some surface, bottom is some surface. So your surface integral splits into three parts. The curved surface, which will vanish because the angle is pi by 2. The top, the angle is acute, so it will give you as it is the double integral over the projection, okay? And the bottom is obtuse, so it will give you a negative sign of the double integral over the projection. That's all, okay? So that is called divergence theorem. So still we have 5 minutes or 10 minutes. Let us look at some. So we will not spend time in saying now that this divergence theorem can be extended to more complicated regions, right? Same thing like for Green's theorem, regions which can be put together with common boundary, they do not overlap. See what will happen if there is a common boundary, a surface which is common, for this outward normal will be going this way, for this outward normal will be going, so they will cancel out. So it will be valid over the bigger region. Like for line integrals, if there is a common curve as the boundary, clockwise and anti-clockwise cancel out each other. Same ideas work here, so we will not spend much time on that. So you can extend it to regions basically by drawing planes parallel to xy plane, yz plane and zx plane. Okay, but all the time keep in mind the normal should be outward normal. For example, let us look at an example. You will look at the annulus region. Now we are looking at the region enclosed by the two surfaces, outer sphere and inner sphere, right? So, and I want to say that this divergence theorem holds for this kind of a region, right? So what we will do? We will cut it up by drawing a plane parallel to the xy plane, right? Then what will happen if I look at the upper part, right? There will be outward normal always going out, but for this planar part of the region, right, the normal will be going downward if I consider only the upper part of that portion of the region. And for the downward one, normal will be going outside, will be going up. So those two will cancel out each other. So it will be valid for the annulus region also, right? Same thing similar to what we have done for Green's theorem. So for concentric spheres, this kind of thing will just let us write down the. Okay, so a particular sphere for radius 2 and radius 3 is taken and computed, outer sphere, inner sphere. The basic idea is same. So I write it as S1 and S2. S1 is the upper part by cutting it by the XY plane, right? Take the XY plane that cuts into two different regions with a common, the annulus plane region, that is a common thing where things will cancel out each other. So that will be. But once you do that, now you have to be careful for divergence theorem to be valid for this kind of a region, right? For the outer sphere, you will be taking the outward normal there, right? For the inner sphere, the outward normal will be pointing towards the origin for the divergence theorem to be valid, like for Green's theorem, right? Clockwise outer one, anti-clockwise outer, and the clockwise becomes the inner one, right? So orientations become positive and negative. So be careful about that. Rest is all computation is simple. So right, G1, G2, right, two different regions and things cancel out. So all this is written and explained, but the basic idea once you understand, there is no problem. So let me skip that portion. Right, so these two add up and give you the triple integral. On the other side, when you do it, that cancels out. So you see that one will be the positive sign coming, other will be the negative sign coming. These two will S3 and S3, right? One pointing outside, one pointing inside. That these two will cancel out and give you the remaining thing. Okay. So let us. Okay, so for example, let us look at a cycle tube, a region of that type. Right? Is it valid for this kind of a thing? Divergence theorem, can I say, is valid for this kind of thing? Apparently not, because if I look at the projection onto the xy plane is okay, it is annulus portion, okay? But when I want to project it onto the other planes, I get into problems, right? I can go enters and something leaves behind something, okay? So, see, when vertical ones, there won't be any problem, right? It will enter and go out, enter and go out, enter and go out, but when you're going this way, it will enter the cycle tube somewhere, then go out and again enter it. So, it is not a simple region. Right? But what we can do is we can cut it into smaller ones, cut it here, cut it here, cut it here, cut it here, and then patch it up kind of a thing. Like we did for the annulus regions for Green's theorem. Right? So it will become valid because the common boundaries again will cancel out each other. Okay? So that is a basic idea. So for such kind of things you can also extend divergence theorem, there is no problem. Okay? Like cut it here, cut it that way, then it becomes nice each way, and then patch up the four regions together to say that it is valid for thing. Okay. So I'm just going through the things which I should stress and are important from your point of view. So now, the verifying divergence theorem means what? Verifying Green's theorem, verifying any theorem means what? Compute the left hand side, compute the right hand side. But when the question comes that verify Green's theorem or verify divergence theorem, be careful about the orientations, right? In Green's theorem, the orientation is anti-clockwise for the curve. Then only the equality holds, right? For divergence theorem, the normal should always be pointing away from the region, outside the region and close by that surface. Then only the two will be coming equal, right? So that is the only care one has to take. Otherwise, one is computation of the triple integral, other is computation of the surface integral. We know how to compute both of them and show they are equal, right? So let us look at just one, what is the surface here. Being the region, what is the surface? Is a paraboloid and the paraboloid bounded by the xy plane, okay? And that is the, so is a paraboloid bounded by the xy plane, right? So one is the curved surface coming from the paraboloid, one is coming from the xy plane. So you have to write it as curved portion S1 plus the plane portion S2. For this one, normal will be pointing outside, so Z component will always be positive. For the bottom one, it is going down, so it is minus K, normal. Clear? For the cone? Oh, sorry, for this paraboloid. So this is, okay, the same picture, there it will look like a cone, here it's looking like a paraboloid. Doesn't matter, it's a matter of imagination only, right? So this is N, and here it will be going outside, that is minus K. So once the normal is fixed, it's only a computation of the two integrals. So let us skip. I think probably this is the right time to stop. I don't want to hurry through too many things because, and thus everything is okay. Right, let us stop here.